Hi there, this is Freddy Sheinfeld. So some people ask me about the software that I'm using on my iPad to control Cubase. So I thought about talking a little bit about it and how to install it, what you can do with it, and basically how to set it up with Cubase. So, first of all, let me just show you how it works and, the kind of thing that you can do with it. The name of the software is called Lemur. It's something that you can download from the App Store. I'll just go ahead and write the link below so you can go there, because you're gonna need also a couple additional pieces of software. You need the Lemur interface that is gonna be connected in the computer. It's gonna be installed in the computer so you can connect to the iPad. And also you're gonna need an editor, which is where you're gonna create your interface, because this is all super customizable, and that's kind of the point of it. First let me just show you a few things you can do with it. Lemur is a controller. That means that you can basically control anything in Cubase. It's super useful that way. One of the simplest ways of using it is just by having shortcuts, and that's really cool. It's something that a lot of people use it for. So basically, it's just replacing keystrokes that you would do in your keyboard. For instance, I have this page here that I did. You can assign it to different colors, different setups, whatever you like and you remember. So for example, I have all my quantize commands here. I have zoom commands here. So if I press one key here, it's just gonna quantize, for instance, here on 8 notes, quarter notes. Then I have different kind of zooms. So there's a lot of different stuff that I tend to forget because there's so many different keystrokes that you will have to do. And then everything is very organized. What else? You have standard shortcuts for MIDI, for audio. You can you can assign it to anything. So that's the most basic way of using it, and that alone is very cool. You can have since all this is customizable, you can have different pages of different sections of your DAW, like the section for the mixer, section for the audio stuff. Whatever way you wanna use it. The other thing that is super useful is that since this is a controller, you can have a mixer here, and you can mix Cubase or your DAW using Lemur. And this is very cool because you can assign each mixer channel to whatever you want. So for instance, I have a MIDI mixer controller here. This is just controlling volume, the mod well, expression channel, and I have several different instruments that I'm using that use kind of a different MIDI configurations. So for instance, the Spitfire collections, they tend to have, for the strings, for example, they tend to have a speed on certain channel, and I have already a layout for that. So I just can go to Albion, and I have all these set up here. If I go to LA's current string, I have different kind of mixing environment so that it works with a particular instrument. So you can customize everything that you want that way. You can also have the way I have it here. I have a bunch of key switches here, so I don't have to remember where they are here. You can just press it here. That's another cool thing about it. So that's a really cool thing that you can do with it, because then you don't need to buy a hardware MIDI controller. So you can just get your iPad that you probably already have at home and use this, and it's a big improvement over the mouse. And so that alone is is worth trying this software. So what else? You can also, besides MIDI, you can obviously control audio. You can have just a regular mixer. That's a no-brainer. And for Cubase, there's something really cool that you can do. Is you can I have this window here, which is an audio mixer. But what it does is just assign automatically to the quick controls in Cubase. So for instance, if I create an instrument, let's say I do Repro 1 instrument. So I create it. As soon as it shows up, now all these controllers, you see, are automatically assigned to the quick controls here. so I don't even have to set it up. And this is super useful because I can start automatizing stuff here. Like the controller one is gonna be the volume, and I can show you. Let me do a couple pretty quick right here. So I just enable the automatization. I'm just moving the fader and I'm recording here. So that's already there. And the cool thing about it is that Cubase is also sending information to Lemur, so you can actually see the fader movement, and you'll see this is moving as well. So this is very cool, because then you get an interactive mixer, which is something that you can't really do with the MIDI stuff. So yeah, so that's a really cool feature right here. And you know, you can, this is a very sophisticated software. A lot of people use it for this that I'm showing you, but you can, you know, you can have a complex sequencer. You can download a lot of cool instruments too. A lot of people design very nice customizable instrument and stuff that are made specifically for Cubase, for Pro Tools, or what, you know, whatever software you're using. And what I do is I just try different versions of the software. I download a bunch of free stuff, and I just kind of choose, you know, I like, for instance, I found a nice audio mixer. I just got that page and then I incorporated it to my own little controller here. So, you know, it keeps expanding, and you keep getting more stuff, and it keeps getting better and better. And at the same time, you start finding out stuff that you never use. For instance, I had this drum pad here that I never use. So I should just probably get rid of it, or even just a little keyboard here. I'm not using it at all. So I think the one of the best things you can do is just having the shortcuts on the mixer. But there's something really cool that you can do with it in Cubase. I don't know how to set it up with other DAWs, but in Cubase you can actually assign a shortcut that is gonna find a specific track, and this is super cool, because then if you assign names to the different groups of tracks that you have, you can move around your palette just jumping with these shortcuts. For instance, you have LA chord strings. If I press here, you know, I'm already at the LA chord string section. If I hit Adagio balance, I'm already here. So this is super cool, and this might be the best thing you can do with it, because it saves you so much time when you're working. I think most composers have big palettes these days, so it takes a lot of time just finding the instruments. I mean, you have the find option, the find feature in Cubase, but still this is faster. You just go and press it. It's really cool. It's one of the best things, that the reason to have Lemur. So the other thing you can do also, since in Cubase you can kind of configure what tracks you see. You can have shortcuts for that. For instance, I only want to see the strings. You just have this being the strings, and you can of course assign a controller here that's gonna click and it's gonna activate that. So you can just show strings by hitting one key on your on Lemur. Another thing that is very useful for film composer is that since you can assign everything, you can assign volumes and mute and solo to your reference track, to your dialogue track. So for instance, if you have a temp track, or let's say you have an audio track that you did a reference mix, and you want to show to a director, right? He's coming to your studio, and you have that, you have the dialogue, and you know how it is. You kind of have to mix that real time, because sometimes the dialogue get in the way, or maybe he doesn't want to hear the dialogue, maybe he wanted to do something with it. That usually means that you have to sit here in the computer and act as an engineer while the director is back at the couch. And so it's kind of a weird dynamic. So it's much better if you have all those controls here. You can sit down there and you can actually write the volumes right here. So it feels much more like a collaboration. You can even give it to the director and he can write the actual volumes. So this is something really cool. And it gets, it looks also much professional, instead of you being sitting here, and the director back there directing. So yeah, that's another cool thing you can do with it. So how you make all this work? So the first thing I would do, I would check out their site. Did I just close the page? Yeah, I closed it. Let me open Safari. So let's go here. Yeah. Okay, so this is their page. This is their website, right? So you can download it from here. These are the different products they have, but they also have a lot of very cool tutorials. So you should check it out, because this can get really deep. You have tutorials for the editor, tutorials on how to connect this to your particular software, and that's something you have to check out, because depending on your setup, it's gonna be different. So I can tell you a little bit of the basics. So what you're gonna do is you're also gonna download their what is called their interface, which is this thing here. It's called Lemur Daemon. So once you download that is what's gonna set up your computer to talk to Lemur. So that kind of depends on how you connect to Lemur, because you can use Wi-Fi, you can use I think you can even use Bluetooth, you can use USB. I mean, there's several ways. I like to use Wi-Fi just because I have a good connection, and I have my router right here, so it's no problem at all. Some people prefer just have a cable. So, there's different ways of doing it. But for that, you're going to have to kind of check a little bit of the video of the setup that you have. You might just do it without needing to check the video, but so that there's a lot of information there. So the way I have it is here. You can see there's an input channel that is receiving, there's another input channel that is sending, and these are the remote ports. This is my iPad. It's receiving information and it's sending information. So as I say, don't worry about this. The mouse and keyboard is just one thing that is set up automatically, I think. But anyway, once you install this, the way that you're gonna test out if it's really working is by installing the editor, and you have to download that too. This is the editor right here, Lemur editor. So let me open it. So this is it. So what this is basically where you build your instrument, because everything is super customizable. You can start from scratch, or you can just download, like I say, different stuff that people already did. There's tons of that online. There's third-party stuff that you can buy. There's free stuff. So we start there. We just get a couple of if you're using Cubase, get a couple of Cubase templates and try it out. So once you get this installed, the first thing you need to do is to make sure that they are communicating. So the way you do that is just syncing them. You open the editor and you press this thing here. It's gonna sync to your iPad, which is not working for some reason. Okay, yeah, I have to enable the connection. So it's gonna ask me, okay, where is the iPad? It's right here, and now it's syncing. Okay, so this means this is on sync. So whatever movements I do here, it's gonna be shown in the iPad as well. So that's how you start building an instrument. But I'm not gonna do that. However, I would recommend building the instruments on the editor. You can do it on the iPad as well, but it's just so much faster here. And once you build anything here, you can save it on your iPad. So that means that you don't have to open the editor anymore. Everything gets stored here. So I can show you. I'm not gonna be using the editor or show you how to do the instrument. You can check that online. That would be another full tutorial. So let's stop this. I don't need to sync it anymore. So now I'm just gonna load one of my instruments. So you see, these are my projects. It's a lot of stuff that I have here that I download, that I did. So this is my current project, Cubase Combo A template 1.7, whatever. So that's the one we were using before. So I'm just gonna discard changes. We're back here. So I don't need the editor anymore. And we're back where we started, right? Okay, so what else? Now, once you have that working and you have your nice software going on, you need to connect to Cubase. So that's another step that is very important. So you're gonna go to the device, to the device setup page right here, and the way this is gonna be different. By the way, this is gonna be different in every DAW. The way Cubase does it is really cool because it has a nice input and output interaction with Lemur. I think Digital Performer doesn't really send information to Lemur very well, so it's not as well. I don't know if maybe they changed that already. I haven't used DP for a while, but the way that you do it here, just create a generic remote instrument right here on the device setup. Okay, so you can see mine is here, remote 1, and these are all the different commands that I already set up on Lemur, and I'll show you how this works in a second. But the first thing you need to do is just create one of these. I'm gonna do one from scratch, so yeah, you can see how it's done. So you just go here, you add one, you choose a generic remote, so it's right here, and then you need to connect it, because you need to tell it, okay, where is receiving information from, and you need to tell them you're receiving information from daemon input, which is Lemur. This is the interface port that was created. So you just choose one of these ports here. These are treated just like MIDI ports. Okay, so you have 8. To be honest, I only use one. I don't have that many controllers. So you choose whatever you want. Let's choose number 1, which is the one I'm using here. Same with the receiving channel. Okay, so this is already connected to my iPad. So that's the first step. Now, the way this window works is that you're gonna have different commands that are gonna be assigned to different functions in Cubase, right? But you also need to tell Cubase and need to tell Lemur how they're gonna be communicated. So that means what kind of information Lemur is sending that Cubase is gonna understand. For example, if you wanna send, let's say, time stretch command, right? On my audio favors, you have to tell, you have to send something, you have to send some kind of information. So the way they communicate is by choosing what kind of one type of controller. So you can use, most of the time it's better to use just MIDI controllers. If you see here, these are all the different ways you can communicate with it. So the best way is just using controllers, but you can also use notes. You can just send a note on function. Note on just mean a note. If you check mine, yes, let's apply it. I have a lot of controllers and I have some note ons as well. And I'll show you a little bit more of that, how that works. But I would recommend using mostly controllers, okay? And I tell you why in a second. But so let's go back here. So how do you create those commands? So the first thing you have to decide, okay, what I'm gonna be saying. So the first one I'm gonna be building is this time stretch. So these are 2 different windows. This is this first window here is gonna show you the stuff that you're receiving, okay? What's the name? This is just customizable. This is gonna be a name for you, for your reference. What kind of MIDI information is receiving, what channel, and what the amount of information is gonna receive. I'll do one so you can understand a little bit how that works. But let's create the stretch, time stretch thing. So I have a time stretch command here. So now I need to tell that what kind of information that it is receiving. So it's gonna be receiving a MIDI controller, okay? I really recommend that. You can use note on, like I said before. The problem with that is that if you send a note to a specific track and you're recording that, then you're also gonna hear the note. So you get a little bit of conflict. So you have to make sure that information that you send into that track is not something that the track is gonna have conflict with. For instance, you don't want to use controller 7, which is the usually volume controller. So let's choose controller first, and then you have to assign a MIDI channel. So basically you have these ports here, you have these 8 ports, and each port has 16 MIDI channels. It's like a regular MIDI port, right? So let's choose MIDI channel 1. So that means that you're gonna have 1 controller for each MIDI channel, okay? So I'll choose 1 here. Then you have to choose what is gonna be the controller number. So again, I don't want to use 7. Let's choose 92 for example. That's I don't even know what that is, but let's say 92 works. So you send in controller 92, and then now Cubase knows that it's gonna be that it receives information on port 1, MIDI channel 1, and controller 92 is gonna activate this command. but we haven't really assigned anything to Cubase yet, any command, and that's what this window right here comes. So this is basically the receiving window, and this is the internal window where Cubase is sending stuff to its software. So don't worry about this max value here, just leave it to 127. Don't worry about these flags, just worry about what kind of controller you're using, and then I can show you that you see all these tracks are corresponding to these tracks here. So it's Freddy 1, Freddy 2, Freddy 3. It's called fader just by default, don't worry about that. So time stretch is number 1 right here. Okay, so as soon as I click here, automatically this is gonna take its name. So it's cool because you already know, okay, this is time stretch, this is time stretch. So now you have to tell Cubase, okay, this time stretch command here you're receiving, it doesn't know what time stretch is. This is just a label for you. This is gonna be sending information to a particular kind of device in Cubase. So this is where it gets really cool and super flexible. So you basically choose whatever part of the Cubase structure where you want to communicate. If you want to communicate to the mixer, you want to communicate to the transport window. So basically anything in Cubase is gonna be represented here. Anything that you can control. So it gets a little bit complex. You might have to spend a little bit of time playing with this. And you can also see that it's gonna also add some other devices that you create as well. So for now, let's go with something simple. Let's say let's actually copy one of mine, so I don't have to find it because I haven't done this in a while. So if I go under what I was doing, time stretch, right? Let me see if I find it. Otherwise, I'll just cheat and I'll do another one. Oh, it's right here, time stretch. So time stretch, I'm using command. So about right here. This one here, right? This is the same. So I'm using a command. So the kind of command is a process. It's called a process. So again, you have a bunch of different things you can assign to. Oh, I'm sorry. First, you have to assign it here. It's gonna be a command that you're gonna be assigning. Okay. Again, these are the different devices that you have, different places in Cubase. Then this is a type of information that is receiving. So it's called channel or category. So it's gonna be a process. You can assign it to presets. I mean, this you really need to play with it and see all the stuff that is available. But in this case, okay, this is a process. Time stretch is a process, and then you're gonna tell it what process is it, and this is where you see the list of all the different processes, right? So you get it from big to smaller. So this is the time stretch here. You can just look for it as well with this search here. So yeah, so this takes a little bit of time because you're gonna have to figure out what Cubase means when it say command, what it means when it say process. But basically you can find anything right here. So it makes it super flexible. If you want, you can let me know. I can send you this particular generic remote. So you have mine, so you don't have to start from zero. But there are many online because these. Once you do it, you can save it. You see right here, Lemur FS is my setup. You can just add it and back it up so you don't lose it because it takes a long time to create. So yeah, so that's it. That's the way you communicate with Lemur. Once you have all your different stuff that you want to be controller, now they know. You're sending for that time stretch. When I press time stretch, you're sending the Cubase is expecting to receive that information through that port and all that. Of course, this is only Cubase side. Now you have to tell Lemur that when you press this button, you press the time stretch button, is gonna send this particular controller on this particular MIDI channel, so Cubase know that it's receiving information for time stretch, right? So the way you do that is either through the editor, or you can do it right here on the iPad. You can get really deep with the editor. Again, I don't want to get into that, but basically I can just hit edit here, edit project, and if I press one of the commands, for instance time stretch, you're gonna see all the different options that you have, and you can see right here where it says output, is sending a control change, control 81, which is 81 right here on channel 3. So port 1, this is the MIDI 1. So that's how you assign each one. You would do that in the I think it's better to do just in the editor. I'm not gonna go there because then we can get really deep and this is gonna get super long. But then you play with it, you're gonna be able to see all the stuff that you can control. Basically, you just have to make sure that whatever information you send in here is the same that Cubase is receiving, so they can talk to each other. So if you send in a note on, you have to tell it what's note on, watch port, etc., and it have to be the same stuff that it's receiving. So once this is configured, you have this information being sent and this information. Let me just turn the editor off. You have this information being received here. You're done. That's it. You can receive all this controller from Lemur, and you're done. You have your shortcuts. I think you can actually record information. Of course, if you send in a MIDI controller, you can record it. You can capture. So I would say that's just the basic of it. It can get really deep again, but there are many videos if you wanna get deeper into it. But that's more or less how I use it. So I think that's pretty much it. I know I didn't talk much about the editor, but I'm running out of battery, so I have to finish here. But just play with it. Just find what you can do on their website, and you see there's a lot of little things and little tricks. And just you can ask me too if you have any particular question. Okay. So I hope that helps. See you later.